And now to our major story of the day. Now, we have to talk about this and promise to get to the bottom of this. We told you yesterday, Nigerian senators won't tell how much they earn. Okay, the Senate president called for a meeting with civil society organization, but there seem to be more questions than answers as it stands right now. Perhaps the group that petitioned or wrote to the Senate president, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, said its representatives met with the Senate President Bukola Saraki to discuss issues relating to details of annual salaries and allowances of lawmakers. According to the organization, I quote now, there is an apparent discrepancy in some areas between what Saraki said at that meeting and what the Senate is doing in practice to improve transparency of its operations and accountability of members. End of quote. Now let's get perspectives to this issue. A lawyer and a former Labour Party National Secretary, Mr. Kayode Ajula, is in our Abuja studio, and he joins us to give his opinions and thoughts on this one. Many thanks, Mr. Ajula, for joining us. These are some of the allegations made by Professor Ishe Sage, based on what he says his own research about what Nigerian lawmakers, so federal lawmakers that is, and he did say in that paper he presented in Lagos that the Nigerian lawmakers, the federal lawmakers, are the highest earning lawmakers around the world based on their wages, their allowances. And he did also say that some of their earnings he did call, quote and unquote, now jumbo pay. Let's get your perspective now. Do you believe that Nigerian lawmakers earn too much?
Well, in talking about whether the Nigerian lawmakers earn too much, one thing we have to know that they are the product of our democratic exercise. Even in actual sense, we have to say they are one of the beneficiaries of this word we call democracy. But it's so unfortunate that today, the real fundamental indices of that democracy, which we call transparency, accountability, and rule of law. And they seem that all these three I mentioned, they seem to not know nothing about it. They seem to float it. Because when we talk about accountability, today, we need not to be talking about how much they are being earning, because they need to really be accountable to the people, and really, when it comes to transparency, let the whole nation know what they are earning. But unfortunately, it has been like trying to find out much more better things than just telling us this is what we're here learning. And from time immemorial, we've been asking this question. You can see for all over the years that have been our issues that we need to know what it is. So whatever Sage is saying, I tend to believe it. We tend to believe it because they are yet up to this moment to deny what Sage is saying. We have expected that they will have the opportunity to do that. What they've resorted to is to castigate the man, to abuse him, to use several words, adjectives to qualify the man. And these same words, they should have used it to tell us what exactly they are earning. It's quite unfortunate. The Senate as it is today seems to be supposed to be one of the biggest and greatest institutions of government when it comes to our democratic dispensation. But unfortunately, those who are sitting there, those who are operating it, seem to be running it down. And don't be surprised, very soon Nigeria will react.
Those are big allegations, Mr. Ajula. I mean, as a lawyer, let me put this question to you. If a lawmaker, they are not the ones who institute their own pay. They are not the ones who institute their own allowances. They are not the ones who put those pay into place. Can they be blamed for that?
I want to believe one thing. When it comes to salary and monument of any public officer, public holders, elected officers, first, if they have a committee, that's a RAMFAC, that's the Revenue and Mobilization Allocation Committee. They have a duty to do that. But you see today, our senators seem to believe that they are above board, they are above law, and which is not supposed to be. That's why I raised the issue of rule of law. What is their position? You find the everyday allocating different projects, different constituency allowance to themselves. We are all witness to what happened between the budgeting process between the federal executive and the legislator. When the executive has a duty to present the budget to them for ratification, all of us, we can see what they've done. to really try to attribute, try to allocate the commonwealth, our resources, to themselves. And this is the issue. This is about lawlessness. This is about trying to believe that they have no respect for laws and regulation of the nation.
The question I'm asking, Mr. Ajulo, is the fact that if I'm a public officer, I do not determine my own salary. I do not determine my own wages. I do not determine my own allowances. There is an agency of government that does that. But if anyone says that I'm earning too much, should I be blamed for it? That's a big question, Mr. Ajulo.
We have to be sincere here. They like I mentioned, we have a committee that's supposed to do. We have a body that's supposed to do this. But in reality, in practice, that is not what is happening. Even I must say this is a national television. The National Assembly that we have today, they are attributing everything. They are allocating everything themselves. Like I mentioned, that's why I mentioned the issue of budget. What they're supposed to do in budget, they bypass that. They overshoot themselves in that budget to attribute all the allocations, send it to themselves. And that is the same way with the issue of the salary emolument. What they're supposed to hand is something that we should know. But under the idea, under the cover of doing committee function, oversight function, you see them attributing several millions of naira to themselves. And we believe this thing has to stop.
Well, I mean, beyond when one person raises an allegation and responding to it, the National Assembly is an institution. But let me quickly put this to you, Mr. Ajulo, and this is a very straight question. The National Assembly, according to the lawmakers and senator, a Nigerian senator, according to Professor Ije Sage, earns about 29 million in monthly pay and over 3 billion a year. If you multiply, when a National Assembly gets about 120 billion naira, 115 to 120 billion naira as their budget in a year, if you multiply 3 billion by 109 senators, is that mathematics really correct based on Professor Ije Sage's mathematics, considering that we have 360 Federal House of Representatives lawmakers?
Well, one thing we have to know is this. Sage must have his source of saying that. But again, one thing we just need to do, like you mentioned earlier, is just to pick what is allocated, that's in budget for the National Assembly, and to divide them. You'll find out that I believe that Sage will not be that far from being correct on that issue.
But let me quickly put this to you. What exactly would you expect from the National Assembly? And I've asked you this question, if you think they are earning too much.
Yes, look, one thing we have to know is this. In the National Assembly, they represent you and I. They are representatives of the people. And I believe that even if we come to the emolument and handing, it must really reflect the issue in Nigeria, the reflection of the common thing in Nigeria. But you find out that today, minimum wage in Nigeria is 18,000 naira. But in a situation that somebody will allocate over 28 million naira to himself, then the question is, are they really, can we say they are the real representative of the country? What is expected of them is to know, to have the feeling of what is going on in the country, to have to know that the economics is down, and to have the feeling that, look, we have to go along with it. But the disparity is too much, and I must say, I can call them my representative, particularly from what they are earning and what they have been doing. It is a total departure from what ordinary Nigerians expect from them.
This is one of the concerns of Professor Ije Sage specifically, and it's part of what they earn in allowances. For example, in one of the details that Professor Ije Sage put forward, and is concerned that some of them earn recess allowances, accommodation allowance, utility allowances, domestic staff allowances, entertainment allowances, hardship allowances, furniture allowances, these constituency allowances. These are some of the issues he raised. Do you think a public officer, such as our lawmakers, deserve allowances anyways?
No, you know one thing, there are some allowances that we believe that they deserved, but there are some that it's totally uncalled for. Like, let me put the issue of hardship allowance. Can they tell us what is the hardship they they are facing in that hollow chambers. They have even the AC, most of what the convenience they have there is provided by government, and they still ask themselves that they are taking out ship allowance. It sounds very funny. It sounds very callous. The same thing they will mention that they are having a newspaper allowance. Look, even the secretary in my office buy his own newspaper, not to talk of a senator. Are they saying they cannot afford that? And you will see they will talk about wardrobe allowance. Tell me who among them comes to Abuja naked and to be doing that? And what are they wearing? You know, these are the things that even make us, even, let's leave Nigeria, let's go to the...
Sorry, Mr. Ajula, sorry, let me come in for a moment. We need to take a breather. And when we return, we will show you a clip of an initial interview we had with a spokesperson of the Senate on this matter and some of his response on the issue of the allowances and their wages. And we'll come back and ask our guest on the program what should be the operational issue when it comes to allowances and wages of the Nigerian lawmakers. Stay with us, everyone.